Right, hello there everyone, welcome back to James Redmond TV, and did you expect me to upload this late? Because I certainly never. I was in bed chilling, and then I just thought, like, oh my goodness, there's big news, and the Caicedo deal, which a lot of optimistic Liverpool fans were still talking about and repeating and saying, well, James, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and Fabrizio's wrong, and don't get me wrong, there was some inaccurate timings on Fabrizio's tweets, but I do think that it was always leaning in heavy favour towards Chelsea. I think that was pretty obvious from when they came out and you know, Caicedo came out and admitted Chelsea is the club that I prefer. Whether it was out of respect, money, London, maybe a little bit of everything, he wanted to go Chelsea. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm happy we never got Caicedo. I'm not going to be one of those fans just because we never got him. But I'm happy now that we never got him. I'm honest. I would have most certainly took Caicedo. Now, very circumstantially, because if we only have 100 million to spend and Caicedo would have been the only signing, then I would have not taken Caicedo, but that's in context. The player Caicedo, if we could have got him, another midfielder and a centre-back as well, I'd have most certainly taken Caicedo. I think he's for Chelsea fans watching this, and big up to all you guys who have been subscribing and stuff like that, and I'm not just here to impress you. I hope you've got the gist that I like to try and say how it is about my team and others, and sometimes it can come across a little bit too much, but listen, I'm never 100% right, it's just my point of view on things. But Caicedo is a direct like for Fabinho, so what you can expect is someone who can read the game well, good enough on the ball. He doesn't need to be world class on the ball, he's a CDM, but if he can break that play, the same way that you've dominated us in midfield today, that's where I now see even more improvement for Chelsea's point. And I made a statement early summer saying that Chelsea were going to break back in the top four and people are sleeping on them. This is mainly in my faith in Pochettino and a few other things, but I think they're going to do well. Back on the Liverpool front, the transfer is over. The transfer is over. I think it's a shame, but it's also encouraging to know that now there's no excuses to go and spend at least that amount of money. And it's not about spending that amount of money. It is mainly about acquiring a defensive midfielder and a centre-back. And now it's interesting to see how does this accelerate the process with players like Lavia. And a lot of people have been linking us to Inacio, for instance. And these are really big names that I would like, and I think we'd all be encouraged by. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we do this efficiently and we do it soon, because I think it'd be a big shame if we're going into game week 2 with not at least one addition. And I do think that we're on the clock. I think people can sit there and say, well, for the best possible deal, we should wait till deadline day. I'll sit there and respond saying, well, let's just say we did a miracle and let's just say we got back in the title race. I don't think we will, based on what we've done so far. And I would need to see how the game plan and the tactics develop over the weeks and months to fully sit here and say we're in a title race. And I think a point at Stamford Bridge is at least encouraging, because you could see both teams weren't quite at it, but the individual greatness was still there within both sides. So we can be encouraged by that. There was things to be excited about, but the gaping hole was the CDM. And, you know, I referred it to as Donut FC. Someone reminded me where I'd heard that in the comments. Expressions, shout out to Expressions. He'll always get the joke first. I was thinking, where have I heard that from before? It was Expressions. But no, that's exactly what it was. It was the perfect analogy. There was nothing in the middle, at least of worthy note, to be able to put up a proper defensive fight. So for us, it's important to get that, and I think Lavia would have been huge. Chelsea fans, if you're watching this, you'll recall how good Lavia was against Chelsea last season. Might have just been in one game, but he was good against us as well. And I just think that's very encouraging for a player to be in a poor Southampton team, the worst Southampton team in about 10 years. And he still bossed it. Came in the Premier League first season, looked really good. So there's a lot of encouraging things if we get Lavia. A lot of people have questions on Lavia because they think he's just some 19-year-old kid who hasn't really got a resume. I would disagree with this premise. I think he's got a fantastic resume. I think to play for the current best academy in the world, I know Chelsea put up a big shout, but the current best academy in the world in City, to win the Premier League, Youth Premier League, and also to be one of the biggest established names out of all the youngsters in Belgium, which we know they still develop good young players. It's very encouraging, and I think to be personally identified by Pep and Klopp, that's the move that we need to go to. But just to sort of give my final thoughts on Caicedo, that's the purpose of this video, as the deal is now done. I mean, it's a here we go from Fabrizio, and many other journalists are saying that this is done. It's £115 million plus a long-term contract, and I would assume that this is a contract that we couldn't match, and I think the club knew this, and I'm very intrigued to know why John W. Henry felt it was worth coming to England today and coming to the game specifically. I'd like to know why that was, and I'm wondering if it has anything to do with accelerating further deals, because now the Caicedo dream is over, and again, this can be good and it can be bad, but it only can be good based on how we react to this circumstance. If we don't react to it, and there's no reaction at all, then that's guaranteed to fail. Because at the same time, I admire seeing players like Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold coming out and saying we want to be in the Premier League conversations. Rightly so. If you've won that medal before and you've won a Champions League medal before and you've won about everything in the game, even if it's just once, you still have that confidence you can do it again. And these boys will not believe that they're past their prime, especially Trent. Virgil, I hope he doesn't. And I don't think he does. I think he believes he's very much got a lot left in the tank. And if a few things get right up here, it will be. But the point I'm leading to is that these guys can be as good as they want. The same way Barcelona, even when they started dipping off, they still had Suarez, they still had Messi, they still had great individuals. But the overall team, the cohesion was not there. And it's because Barcelona focused too much on what they had, and they stuck with what they had, opposed to building efficiently for the future. It was just, who's the big name? Let's get the big name. And it weren't really well thought out. Well, Liverpool aren't even trying this. We're not even trying to get enough adequate players in, and our squad size at the moment is terribly small for a team that is going to be competing in Europa League, where I believe there's an extra round. I might be wrong there, because I think the preliminary rounds is for teams who, I think is it second place versus Champions League? I'm not too sure. But yeah, the point that I'm leading to here is that with the amount of games, we'd like to think, if we can't win the league, let's at least compete on a cup front, you know, and not just Europa League. I mean, in a League Cup and an FA Cup sense, I think that's important. We still need to, you know, when it comes to Klopp's time to be done, I think it's important that we've got a nice couple of trophies and a multiple of some. To be able to sit there and say, wow, what a manager he was, you know what I mean? No other manager could have done that for us in that period of time. And now we need to amplify them. And that's by providing this great manager, who I believe is still a great manager, the resources to really build this team. And I think there's encouraging early signs. It's interesting how McAllister and Sobbo were some of our most encouraging players today. But the only thing is that they came up against a great midfield that had worked slightly together. You know, Connor, Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez are more familiar with each other than our team, for instance. But these guys are top class midfield. Conor Gallagher, I'd still have questions if I'd refer to him as top class. Enzo Fernandez, for me, I said I'd take him over Jude Bellingham. I think he is top class, and we saw that today. But the overall conclusion on the video is that, of course, it's disappointing to miss out on Caicedo, and it was very ballsy to go in and get him. So in a way, I respect it, but it is another big name that you've missed out on. So now what does this mean? And then now that you've left Lavia, but now you're going back in for Lavia, what does that mean? Apparently Chelsea has a bid on the table for an excess of 50 million to Southampton. So now, because they're not going to get Lavia based on chances, are Southampton going to sit there and say to us, well, we actually know you've got money. Oh, and by the way, we're not really looking to sell Lavia. And 50 million was last week's price. But this week's price is now 55, or it's 60, possibly 65. That's now where even I sit there as a fan of Lavia and say, this is huge money, and that's a hard player to replace. If he doesn't work out, or if he gets a big injury at a young age, which is very doable, I just sit there and think, that's a big, big risk. 50 million, I think that's the going rate at the moment. For someone with potential and a high ceiling like him, it's the going rate. However, to go any more than that is you know, now we're going back into times where, you know, what Bournemouth did for us, buying Dominic Solanke for 25 million, Sheffield United with Ryan Brewster for 20 odd million, Jordan Ibe for 20 million to Bournemouth. These are the type of transfers that didn't work out, and it was a big loss for the football club. Bournemouth even ended up getting relegated again, and whatever have you, it can have a huge impact. The same way that it had a huge impact on us when Naby Keita didn't work out. He was a big transfer for us. Luckily, Andy Carroll would have fucked with us if we didn't get Luis Suarez, but that one would have really damaged us. Think about it. You know, Luis Suarez, him and Daniel Sturridge, I'd probably say for a period there, were our only world-class strikers since Fernando Torres. We tried out Robbie Keane and, you know, a few other names, but these guys were the guys, so that's why we were lucky in that sense. But if we never got Suarez, Andy Carroll would have been a big problem for the football club financially. And that's why I sit there now and think, well, we don't want to keep missing out on big targets, but if we do get it, we need it to be right, because we don't want someone to just stay here for 5 years and sit on the bench, or sit in a hospital, you know what I mean, having the foot rested and, you know, back massages and all this stuff. I'm all good. I want someone who's going to be efficient, they're going to play week in, week out, and they're going to be boss. And that's something that I think all Liverpool fans are desiring as well. So let me know what you think about this. Are you upset about the fact that we can't get Caicedo? I do think there was a lot of encouraging attributes that I got to look forward to when those 5-6 hours we had him, then he was ours. But then he fucked us up. So yeah, it was, and we're in a good luck because the club clearly made Jurgen Klopp come out and say that the agreement had been made. And I just wish it was a no comment situation. Like, listen, deal's not done. What's happening between the club and the club is whatever. But I think the club know, and this is why they made them do it. I think the club know that there's pressure on the club right now. There's pressure on the owners. The fans are very impatient and very upset. And I think that's why they've made big statements recently, like making Jurgen Klopp come out and saying we've got a deal agreed. Maybe there was a benefit in the negotiations that clearly didn't work in hindsight. But then also when you consider John W. Henry coming to the game today and then he's sitting there in the crowd, and when does he ever come to games? You know what I mean? Like, why is he here now? It's like, you know, he wants to prove to the fans that he's getting stuck in the middle of it. This shows that these guys know they're messing up. These guys know they're not doing enough, and this is why now when stuff has really hit the fan and we're in the Europa League and we've had a very underwhelming transfer window, now they're going to come out and do these stunts, as I like to call them. Now, I'm not trying to just be all one way FSG, but I think even they are showing and they are admitting that they've got a lot wrong. So it's interesting, but let me know what you think in the comments down below, guys, because as much as I, love hearing myself talk, and you can probably tell, I love to read your comments and see what you guys are saying as well. Only if you enjoy, smash a like on these videos. If you don't, I think it's actually important, and I don't like the way YouTube have taken away dislikes, but there's a way I can still check, but dislike the video if you don't enjoy it. Really, honestly, it's good for me. It makes me improve and, all that stuff. I understand the production isn't quite supreme yet, but we're getting there, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Especially with your support, so I thank you very much for that, and I'm very grateful. I've even been, I've been very gracious to the big man. I've been thanking God every single day for all the people who are tuning into the channel, so God bless you all right, and yeah, guys, appreciate the time, and I'll see you all in a bit. Peace.